Angelique, Tenkuu no Requiem is a JRPG released for the PCFX in Japan in 1998. The next year, it was ported to the PS1, and that is the version I played. In fact, it is part of a prolific series of RPGs with dating elements, and the series spawns nearly 20 games over a bunch of platforms and generations that I believe have never been released outside of Japan. Tenkuu no Requiem, literally the Requiem of Heaven, is the first and only game I played in that series. The game mostly plays as a generic Japanese RPG with turn-based battles, villages to visit, and NPCs to talk to progress the story. What's original in this game, however, is that you visit different planets in lieu of different lands. It's mostly cosmetic, as the planets themselves simply represent different climates, such as cold winters, hot deserts, lush forests, or lonely caverns. There's no world map to traverse, only areas to pick from on each planet that will send you directly into different towns. From there, you can walk out to areas where you'll trigger random encounters and fight enemies. And these areas basically act as dungeons, if you will. One of the appeal these games have, I believe, is the staggering amount of characters you bring into your party. Since your main character is a girl, every other party member is a guy except for one that you can romance and give presents to. I completely ignored that aspect of the game, and I am not aware of any battle advantages this could give you, but you do get a bonus FMV with your wink wink character at the end of the game if you take the time to develop a relationship. I didn't, so I didn't get anything special. Still, the game is perfectly playable without ever dabbing into these love affairs. But is it worth it? Not really. The enemies are extremely generic and repetitive, and mostly seem completely random. A simple squirrel, a chicken with eagle wings, whatever that thing is. You do get fantasy enemies thrown in, however, which should have been the standard, not the exception. The battle music is also ridiculously not fit to be battle music. I mean, it's good enough, it's just not what you want to hear when fighting enemies. And it's the same music that plays for the entire game, even for quote bosses, unquote. If you can even call them that. Are there even any bosses in this game? Mostly stronger enemies than usual, special characters you fight sometimes. Hard to say, the music never changes. Besides the final boss, who's an actual boss, I think only one other enemy had different music, if I recall correctly. It's a little strange. And speaking of the music, it's mostly pretty poor. The back of the instruction manual proudly mentions a CD soundtrack for this game, but really? I think I like the total 2 tracks in the entire game, and you can hear one of them playing in the background right here, but they weren't even that great. I can't imagine buying the game's soundtrack on CD. The story roughly has to do with planet and galaxy conquering by some guy who doesn't understand why his girlfriend left him. But as is the case with text-heavy JRPGs, I mostly skipped the dialogue, so there's not much I'll say about it. It all felt pretty standard, however, and as previously mentioned, the game's main draw probably has to do with conversations the characters have with each other, flirting and such. The graphics also look pretty amateurish, and while the FMVs are nice, they are few and far between. The game was also extremely easy, to the point where the only challenge I ever had was in the very last dungeon, where I was scared I would die. For once, it still didn't happen though. Overall, I would say that this game was mediocre at best. Even if I had played it in English, I don't think my opinion of the game would have changed. The enemies are boring, the music is not very good, the game is too easy, and there aren't many redeeming qualities to this Koei title. I doubt the story would have swayed me from what I've seen, but maybe romancing a character would have added a lot of spice to the game. Take that with a grain of salt, but in the experience I had with the game, I would rate this a 5 broken hearts out of 10. Then again, I don't think I was the target audience for this game.